Ask the Mayor. Your chance to ask the Mayor of Weymouth, Bob Hedlund, questions about the town of Weymouth and or anything else that you have concerns about. Ask the Mayor is pre-recorded. And now, here's Bob Hedlund.
And we're back. Welcome again to an episode of Ask the Mayor, featuring our mayor, Robert Hedlund, alongside myself, Jim Melody. I'm your citizen's advocate, asking the questions that you want answered.
Inquisitor.
And the Inquisitor.
Slash citizen advocate.
And of course, the question on everybody's mind as we kick off the summertime version of Ask the Mayor is, Bob, what's the significance of that elephant on the table? It's your business card holder, but where the heck did you get that?
Before I answer that, let me remind you, Jim, that when I start veering off topic and start talking about music in response to silly questions that we get, it's your job as the Inquisitor slash citizen advocate to keep me on track here, not to keep me going off track.
I find that stuff interesting, even if Mr. X doesn't. I find it interesting.
You caught me off guard with the question, but we decided that, in fact, I believe this is the second show that we've had the golden elephant here, but I noticed at the last taping that it's a beautiful room here, but it was kind of a drab set here with the table, and we needed a mascot of some sort. So that's the best we could produce.
Voila.
In like 30 seconds notice. The golden elephant, and I'm trying to remember where I got that. I know it came from the State House, but there's a custom up there that evolved over time after I got up there for a while that we gave Christmas gifts out, and I think it was a Christmas present from one of my colleagues, and I'm thinking Brian Lees, former minority leader from Springfield, who collected little elephants. He had a little display in his office of miniature elephants. I think he gave that out one year, but I could be wrong. It actually looks too opulent for his budget, for him to have produced 40 of those, so he may have only given it to our caucus, which at the time would probably numbered about 6 or 7.
Did you ever get up to double digits as far as the Republican caucus on the Hill?
Yeah, when I first arrived, we had 16 out of 40. We had the ability to sustain a gubernatorial veto, and Bill Weld was the governor at the time, and they never really got their act together and used it the right way. The first veto test was on an issue that was absurd. I was not on the reservation. I was the only one off the reservation. It was at a time we were cutting the state budget. I still had my business because I was first elected. I was laying people off in a bad economy, and the first test of Weld's veto strength was to maintain a pay raise for cabinet secretaries. And I said, well, how do we keep pay raises intact? Well, how do we give a pay raise, actually, at a time when we're cutting the state budget, cutting benefits, cutting retirees' benefits, et cetera, et cetera. So I was off the reservation on that, and they were putting it in the context, well, this is a test of Governor Weld's veto power. And I said, no, it's a test of what the issue is, not, and it blew up in their face, and I was distanced from it at that time.
Interesting.
But yeah, so we were up to 16, and then there was it atrophied, the numbers atrophied over that, it shrunk, and at one point we were down to 4. Yeah.
What's the count these days? Do you have any idea?
What do we got? We've got senators, I'd have to run through them, but Tarr, Humison, Ms. DiMacedo, my successor, Patrick O'Connor, and Ryan Fatman. So they're up to 6.
Jeez. And I guess same train, same track. Any thoughts on the recent resignation of Garrett Hedlund?
And Senator Ross. I guess that's 6. I'm sorry.
Representative Garrett Bradley just resigned.
Is this one of your questions or a
no? This
viewer's
is coming off the. So we're shooting from the hip on this one, but it's just relevant because as you resigned to become the mayor here.
I think that caught Democrat activists, residents of Hingham, myself, other elected officials, and from what I understand, based on some interaction that occurred a few days before, I think it caught his staff off guard.
Wow.
So you put that one in the category of a big surprise, and the timing is just. It's odd. I mean, he's on the ballot. He will be on the ballot, and the only way he won't be on the ballot for November is if he's on the primary ballot.
Right.
So the only way he doesn't appear on the November ballot, well, it's a complicated process. So he's on the ballot. Someone has to beat him with write-in votes, which isn't going to happen for the nomination. So he'll probably win because he's on the ballot.
Right.
Then he has to resign, and then the Democrat town committees will caucus, I guess, in Scituate, Hull, Hingham, Cohasset, and arrive at a candidate to give the nomination to.
Jeez.
So it kind of takes it out of the hands of the voters because of the process.
Yeah, it was kind of top of mind just because I saw right off the bat some of the folks who jumped into that race are the same suspects that ran against Patrick not so long ago. So it's kind of the same crowd, it seems like.
The other strange part is the Patriot Ledger had it wrong in one sense on the report on this, that the legislative session ends July 31st. It doesn't. It ends next January, first Tuesday in January or whatever, or Wednesday. This actually just is the end of formal sessions. They still have informal sessions, so legislation's still getting done right through till next January. But the workload diminishes because it's an election year from January 31st to July 31st to January. So it's almost like, there isn't a lot to do as a legislator in that time frame. So he could have still
maintained the post,
held the seat, and really wouldn't have been a big deal.
Jeez.
And just finish out the term. He still would have been on the ballot, but I think he has to, resign in order for this whole caucus thing to unfold. So that may have been a consideration. So very, very strange timing, but nothing surprises us anymore the way special elections have gone, and the whole thing with the special election with Scott Brown, Elizabeth Warren, and Kerry, and
sure.
It's been a crazy 7 years or so in the way elections are held in Massachusetts.
And the presidential campaign is ramping up too,
right.
So there's going to be an interesting fall, obviously, as we move down the line. Well, getting into some of the questions that have come directly from the citizens, let's start off with one from Michelle Cronin, who wanted to know, Dear Mayor Hedlund, several area town halls are open one night a week until 8 p.m. for bill paying, dog licensing, etc., and subsequently close early on Fridays. Is this something you would entertain? Also, the town hall posts the hours starting at 8:30 a.m. Is there a reason that the tax office is not opened at this time? By the way, Mr. X is not wrong.
At 8:30?
Yeah, apparently so. By the way, Mr. X is not wrong. Keep those questions moving. From Michelle Mickey Cronin.
Mr. X is gaining some followers.
This could be Mrs. X.
It could be Mr. X too, just using an alias.
Well, listen, let's talk about those town hall office hours. That sounds interesting.
This is a great question. I don't want to get myself in trouble here with staff, but we are looking at the hours for the tax collector's office. In fact, we have some changes going on. As you know, I think we indicated maybe in a previous show, we just had our new CFO start after a complicated process. I mean, we're very fortunate the way that positions I've had to staff, we found great people right out of the gate, whether it be Town Solicitor Callahan, Chief of Staff Langell, our Planning Director Bob Longo. But it's been an excruciatingly painful process to finally arrive at a CFO for the town. As many people know, Bill McKinney left a year or so ago. Mayor Kay had an interim CFO, and we hired someone right out of the gate also, and she kind of telling us that she was starting 2 months later, to wrap things up at her old job. We wrote it out for 2 months, and a couple days before she was to start, she left us high and dry. So we had to start that process all over. So we have Brian Conley in place, a new CFO. We are now in the process of hiring a treasurer-collector, and that will necessitate some reorganization a little bit. We've been without an actual treasurer-collector also, and we're talking now, but we want to wait till we have that position filled about some of the hours relating to the tax collector's office. It's on my radar screen. A little incident just occurred where I saw, ironically, and you don't know this, but I saw one of your best friends in the parking lot. And I said, "What are you doing here?" And they said, that doesn't matter. So what kind of answer is that? What are you doing in the parking lot of Town Hall? Nice day, afternoon. I don't want to. I said, well, just tell me. I mean, what do you, is this some top secret? No, I came here to pay my tax bill. And I said, well, why is that such a big secret? Well, they weren't open. I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Oh, boy.
The door was locked a little earlier than it should have been, and it inconvenienced this constituent. So it sounds to me like this is a matter of convenience, this issue that's being raised by this constituent, so we are looking at it. Now, in the matter of keeping Town Hall open late, what's the specific question?
Well, the question was, can we leave it open late one night and then close early on Friday?
Okay, that happens in some towns. Hull, for instance. I don't even know if they close early. I think they may be closed all day down there. But this is a question I have been asked a lot. This is the first time it's been asked by a resident and not by staff.
Oh.
Who would like to work late and then have time off on a Friday.
Sure, I'd buy that.
I haven't really delved into it. My initial reaction is that I'm not keen on the idea. I like the idea of the convenience of having, like for instance, the Treasurer's Collector's Office open late for ease of convenience for constituents. Maybe there could be some flex time, rotating staff, something to do that. I'm not just keen on the idea of shutting Town Hall on a Friday down either early or for the entire day. It's just something that bringing me back to my private sector days. It would probably drive me crazy knowing, hey, look at these bureaucrats, they got Friday off, you know what I mean? They get certain holidays off, I don't get off. Now they're off on a Friday. Right. It's an initial visceral reaction that isn't good. But I understand the point about the tax collector office.
And I think the more people that understood that there's a yin and a yang here. You're open late on a Tuesday, Wednesday, but you're taking off early on a Friday. I mean, it's a 40-hour week.
Yeah, and why not do something that provides maybe a staffer can rotate, have a Friday off or an afternoon off and stay late or something. I don't think you need a full complement. Whether or not that's practical, I don't know. As I said, these are things absolutely, once we have all the new staff in place in that department, we'll look at the stuff for sure. It's
awesome.
Definitely on my radar screen. And you didn't hear that anecdote about your friend? Is that news to you?
No. This is completely
It's literally
different.
like one of your best friends. So.
It's funny. And what a good guy.
But he didn't want to give me the input. Yeah, I mean, he was like, didn't want to tell the mayor. He's like, I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I said, don't worry about it. If it helps us provide a better customer service experience, we want to know what your problem is.
If it's one of my friends, I thought the punchline was going to be they didn't want to tell you about the tax bill because it was due for the last 3 years.
Well, let me give you a little hint. All right, if it had been this guy's brother, all right, he probably would have kicked the door in and gone in there and made the payment himself, okay?
We need a buffet style.
Is that a good hint?
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
All right.
All right, well, listen, let's move on to some summertime fun. Dear Mayor, this is from Sue in North Weymouth. The new floats at Lane Beach are fantastic. I see on social media people bickering about who's responsible for them. Responsible for this improvement. What's the real story? And keep it up. So, what is the real story?
Is it her name?
This is from Sue in North Weymouth.
The new floats are great. I actually was down there with my kid last weekend to kind of see them firsthand. I had seen them before they went in the water.
Fantastic.
Saw pictures, obviously, of them in the water.
Now, is this Steve Riley? Is this Weymouth Rec that would be responsible for this? Or is this DPW?
Well, that was the question, right?
Oh, who's responsible? I'm sorry. I didn't know if it was a private benefactor.
I did see a little scuttlebutt on social media of people speculating. It was weird. It's like almost like, okay, something nice happens, and then there's bickering about who's responsible. What was Reagan's old quote? He didn't care who got the credit as long as it was success. So the true story on this is there were a lot of everyone recognized that the old floats were a problem. Kids are getting splinters. They've been there for a million years, petrified, rotting wood or whatever, right? So they knew they had an issue. Someone, I think it was Steve Riley, became aware of this new product that's available, which is recycled material. So it's plastic, these plastic modular type things that you kind of bolt together.
Yep.
And he actually, I remember him when I came in telling me about it, and it was something they were considering. But what he did was he waited to go to, I think it was the boat show or something, where they could visually actually see them. He was aware of the product, but he waited till he went to the boat show to actually see it. And I hate to say it, I don't want Donald Trump mad at me, but it's a Canadian company that sells the product. And given where the dollar value of the dollar was versus the Canadian dollar at the time, it was a really good price. He came to me, would like to do it, fit it in the capital program for Park and Rec and DPW, which works with Park and Rec on their capital program. And said, yeah, let's do it. And DPW assembled it, and their crew did a great job. It was almost like getting a Christmas present that you have to assemble when you've never done one before, or you got to assemble your kid's bike or whatever. And that's what it was for the DPW, but they handled it quite well, and they got it together, and they got it in the water the same day, I believe, or the next day, and to rave reviews. It's no splinters. So
fantastic.
So the credit lies with Steve discovering the product, doing his due diligence. We signed off on the appropriation, and obviously the council approved it, and DPW did great work assembling it. So that's, for the record, where it lied. So they were looking into this, I think it was before I arrived, but he saw the product earlier this year at the boat show and decided that it worked.
I think this puts us in the win-win category for this particular product purchase. It sounds fantastic. And those things were older than dirt. I think they were using the same ones from when I was on those things 40 years ago.
Yeah, I never had the pleasure of diving off or swimming off of the old ones, but I did stand on this one. It was low tide. It wasn't, you wouldn't have been able to dive off it when I was down there, but they look good.
All's well that ends well, it sounds like.
We actually have some other improvements happening down there. By the way, just for the record, for the beach. I think we mentioned in a previous show, but we got a great offer to fix up those basketball courts from with some private money.
No kidding.
A group that's involved in some youth basketball, they want to donate. One of the parents wants to donate his services. He's an engineer. I won't name him now, but if this happens, we'll certainly recognize him and do a little ceremony. But he's
the hoop court's down at the beach?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, and I think in conjunction with that, we're going to be able to do a little top lot adjacent to it, so it'll provide an opportunity for, families that might have young kids that are watching the older kid play basketball. If we're on the beach with the kids, they can go over and use the top lot and everything. We're trying to create a little sidewalk that you'll have a safe pathway to get there, so you're not traipsing across the parking lot, with cars moving around, with young kids that might not be seen. So hopefully there'll be those kinds of improvements down there soon.
Well, it's a great spot, and it's getting better, it sounds like. Congratulations. Well, listen, it's not all sunny in this town, unfortunately. Susan Murphy writes in, "Dear Mayor, my son Sean Murphy," photo below, "fell on his way into Wasagusa School last Thursday. He scraped his face, his knees, and his hands as he tripped on the corroded sidewalk. I was walking him up to school as I do every day, and someone was coming the other way on the sidewalk. I let go of his hand so that they could be able to pass, and he tripped and fell. I've been bringing my kids to this school for 13 years, and the landscaping is so poor for a primary school. It is ridiculous to put small stones all around, and the sidewalks have not been touched in ages. Do you know how many kids and adults have slipped on these stones and sidewalks? Many people complain every day to me. Please, Mayor, come to the school and see for yourself. Please have some work done this summer before someone is seriously hurt. Thank you, Susan Murphy, who lives on North Street." Any comments on the Wasagusa School sidewalk situation?
Just down there for a soccer game with my kid. I didn't observe the section she's talking about, so I'm not exactly sure. Next visit down there, I have to take a closer look. I think we've talked in the past about aggressive work we are doing with sidewalks and roads.
And we have.
We're ratcheting up from about $1.5 million a year to, I'll do the math, so $1.2 million from the state. Mix in some community development block grant money. That's another, gets up to about $1.5 million where we were last year. On top of that, we have $750,000 we are doing for a mix of sidewalks and roads from a couple different other funding sources, partly free cash, partly previous mitigation money from L-Star, and $3 million in bonding. So it's a significantly higher level. Patriot Ledger did a story on that about a week ago, so that's been reported. So you're going to see, a difference being made, but given the condition town-wide and the list we have of inferior roads and sidewalks, it's not going to happen overnight.
Sure.
We have to keep this aggressive spending level up over a considerable amount of time before we're ever going to get anywhere near being caught up. We're also trying to address, as we talked about in a previous show, what we're doing with unaccepted roadways. But as far as this specific site, we will look into it. I'm not exactly sure where she's talking. Sidewalks and roads to schools rise to a priority level on how we determine where the money's going.
Would make sense.
I know that some of the roads down there have been done. I don't know the specific spot. We'll look into it. One thing you mentioned in there, and I'm curious, she said she's been taking her son to that school for 13 years.
Unless I misread that. I've been bringing my kids to the school for 13
okay.
years.
I thought you said kid. I was like, wow, I hope he's going to graduate. No, but seriously, you said, I didn't hear the kids, the plural.
Sure.
So that's duly noted, and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, they've got a great parent council down there. We know they're real active. They've got a lot of support down there, and it's good to hear
An aggressive town councilor who, if this was made, it was just brought to her attention, Councilor Hall, we would certainly hear from her on it. We talk regularly. I'm not keeping you up, am I?
No, not at all. I find this
Nice tie,
fascinating.
by the way.
Appreciate
Nice tie,
you
by the
saying
way, you
so.
have this week.
I appreciate you saying that as well.
And a huge upgrade over last week.
This is straight from the pages of Vanity Fair magazine, as a matter of fact.
What is it?
What magazine? It is a Hermes tie.
What magazine?
Vanity Fair.
Oh.
Your regular subscriber?
Is that a woman's magazine or a men's magazine? Seriously.
It's the high society title from Condé Nast Publishing, who does Vogue and, not Elle, but Vogue and GQ and so on and so forth.
I know GQ is a men's mag, right?
The woman who gave me this tie, actually, remember the old UN Secretary General was Javier Pierre
Yes.
Perez Cuellar. He was wearing this tie, which he handed to me in a box.
He was from Peru, I believe.
It could have been. She handed it to me, and I pronounced the brand name of the tie Hermes instead of Hermes, as I addressed the only woman in the room. She would probably get that joke. So I said, "Why don't you give me a Hermes tie?" She said, "It's Hermes, you dope." And it's a couple $100 tie. It's the most expensive one in my collection in some.
Proves what good taste I have. It stands out, and I
Thank
know
you for saying so. And I can see that you've chosen not to match my sartorial splendor.
Yeah,
and you're looking smashing.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, this picture of this boy doesn't look as good. He fell and hit his face, and we're in the process of developing those sidewalks, it sounds like, which is good news for everybody.
Yeah, we definitely have to take a look. This is going in the other pile.
Okay, excellent. Mayor, we're going to keep rolling down the line here.
Yeah, we'll get off ties now.
Yeah,
Okay.
We're moving forward from the fashion category over to the real estate section. There's a lot of positive buzz about the Emery estate, and we have a letter here from Danny Antonovich in the Burgess area, who's wondering, what is the story with the Emery estate? We hear a lot of talk about improvements and potential use, and we saw that the high school prom seemed to use it as a recent photo shoot location. Any news to report?
I appreciate his interest in civic affairs. I would hope that he would come to some of the community meetings.
He's a very solid citizen in this town.
We did have a community meeting on this. The planning department is attempting to secure a park, that's PARC grant, administered by the state. We think we have a very competitive proposal. I think it was close to $400,000. So we do a whole show on Emery, and I know that actually WTC's been running the meeting. Hopefully they'll recycle it now and then. And it went well. You know, a lot of times we seem to have trouble in this town reaching consensus on things, but on this one, the neighbors who may be impacted by some of these were quite cooperative. There were some that expressed concerns, but I think there's a recognition that the town made this $1.9 million investment prior, you know, obviously a number of years ago before I arrived here as mayor. But we have this investment. We have a home that up there that people have mixed opinions on, but the fact is we need to decide what we're going to do. We did this to prevent, you know, a subdivision being built up there, so the neighbors recognize that it's you know, to be used for the public good. So we're trying to enhance some passive recreation opportunities up there for the residents. This park grant will allow us to do that, provide some parking, some lighting, bathrooms, a pergola kind of, what's the word I want? Not a pergola, but a band, you know, like a, come on, help me here, like a not a bandstand.
I can't even believe it. Are you telling me that would be open to the public? I could actually go up to the Emery State and walk in and take a little tour?
Yes, you can go now.
Use the bathrooms and just check it out?
No, we would be building new bathrooms that would be outside of the home because the home isn't usable.
A gazebo?
A gazebo! Thank you. I was blanking out. A gazebo. But, you know, it would be large enough to, you know, photo shoots or mill around in there, sit there,
wedding
look at
photos,
the vista.
perhaps, things like that, maybe?
Yes,
Okay.
and then with an eye towards running some events up there, because you'd have the bathrooms, you'd have the ability to put a tent like the junior prom did that you duly noted.
Okay.
And you could occasionally host events up there. So I think the plan calls for about 90 parking spots. From an engineering standpoint, it's not an imposing number when you look at the site plan, and it'll improve access. Emery Lane is really the only option we have, and that's why some neighbors from Emery Lane, they were concerned, so we're trying to address their concerns.
There's only one way in and one way out, correct?
Well, yes, at the moment,
yeah.
and theoretically, you know, at one time there was a driveway that exited on Commercial Street, but it's almost impossible because of the sight lines to make that a viable entrance and exit. So we've had feedback from the police department, traffic studies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a blind spot on a hill there. You really couldn't use that. The neighbors were great. They were very cooperative. I think they understand the reality of the situation. And we got a lot of input, but we didn't have, people up there pounding the tables and yelling and screaming. So it's been well received. I think the planning department has a very competitive grant proposal for the state, and I think we're going to be able to get that money, and we have to obviously come up with our share of the money. It's a reimburse type situation, and create some access up there. It doesn't involve the building itself at the moment. It's being done to either make the site work if the building were to come down, or it would be an enhancement and complement the building if the building gets reused. So we still have to address the reuse or not reuse of the building.
I find the property fascinating. I think everybody in Weymouth does. It was always kind of this untouchable place that you weren't allowed to go on the grounds.
As a kid, were you ever up inside the building?
I had some friends that lived off of Mount Vernon, so we'd sneak up and wander around. It was a real big adventure.
When people were living there?
Yeah, when there was actually...
Were you ever in the house back in the day?
Never, and I'm dying.
They ran some youth group programs up there through the years.
Oh, no kidding. No, I've always fascinated. I've always wanted to be inside that house and wander around. And a brief history on the Emery estate. Who were the Emerys and anything?
What did the guy make his money in? Was it wool? And obviously, the family. I think they're the only owner of the site, really, and the family made money in wool. The original guy that built it, he used to wander. He'd walk down to the train station, and go to Boston or wherever and conduct his business. But I don't know much about the family that was there in the later years, but they were cooperative and offered it to the town. They probably could have made a little more money,
wow,
doling it out as a subdivision. Anywhere from 20 to 40 something houses you could have gotten up there.
Holy smokes!
But it is a unique site. I'm glad the town preserved it. Open space is somewhat limited in this town, and
we're moving forward.
We're trying to move forward.
Well, listen, as we look to wrap up, we have one final question. It's been asked before, but it's probably worth inserting on a regular interval. You're 6 months in. Lindsay Lenane from South Weymouth wants to know, do you like your job so far?
This is interesting. I believe today as we tape is the 6 month mark right on the button.
Oh, geez.
So we're finishing up our 6 month today. The jury is still out. I'll let you know later, Mary.
It's been action-packed, that's for sure.
I can say this. I mean, I'm new at this on the municipal side, obviously. I enjoy coming to work. Some of the work I don't enjoy that pops up during the middle of the day. Some of it's aggravating. When there are impediments to progress, it gets frustrating. We're making a lot of progress on some things in town, but there's things that get in the way that make it frustrating, which seem like time wasters. That gets frustrating. But it's a complete departure from what I did before. There's probably, I was talking to my chief of staff who came with me from the State House. I said, it seems like we probably put 3 times as much time into this and effort.
I don't doubt it.
Than what we were doing before. And he said at least that, and I agree. It's funny, people say, oh, you must love the commute now. You're not sitting in traffic for an hour to get to Boston, traffic an hour coming home. I said, yeah, I commute 90 seconds is my commute now, but I'm finding I'm getting home 2 and 3 hours later than I used to. So it's a wash that way. But it's a challenge. I enjoy what I'm doing thus far. I think there's still a learning curve here. We'll see how things even out as time goes on. So
yeah.
I think I'd give Mary a definitive answer. Give me another 6 months for a definitive answer.
Well, I think it's Lindsay who made the question. I think we can ask that probably in monthly increments.
Who was it?
Lindsay Lenane from South Weymouth. But I think, again, I've made that point to other people as well. I think they thought it was an apples-to-apples job leap, and it's
no, executive branch versus the legislative branch. Up there we sat around with cobwebs growing on us, talking in circles, debating things, and this can be much more productive as the CEO of a community, or even if you're CEO of the state like the governor.
Excellent. Well, I think as we look to wrap up another episode of Ask the Mayor, we thank the viewers, we thank the WETC crew, we thank you, Mr. Mayor, and once again we encourage all the listeners and viewers to stay tuned for the Beverly Hillbillies. Coming up next.
How's that song go?
Come listen to a story about a man named Bob. 6 months into his very new job. Driving around town in his John Deere. Get out of his way or he might hit you in the rear. Good night, everybody.
If you have a question, please email the mayor at askmayorbob@gmail.com. That's askmayorbob@gmail.com. Maybe your question will be answered on the next episode of Ask the Mayor.